Hello, and welcome to my comic review of DC's Finest Superman, the first superhero. It's a book, it's kind of like an anthology, an omnibus, except it does not have the full comics in it, it just have the Superman parts of it. It has Action Comics 1, I think, through 1 through 25, and then Superman 1 through 5. It's the first 2 years of Superman comics from 1938 to 1940, and by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, and I hope I pronounced their names right. So the very first thing I'm gonna go show y'all is Action Comics 1. So here I've got a better picture of the other page, but here you can see the cover from Action Comics 1. You've all probably seen it. It's an iconic cover that um, they've actually reprinted. These are reprints, of course, so monetarily this book's worth maybe the $30 I paid for it, and it's got like, I think someone said 40 issues in it, or it rounds about to $1 an issue, which is still more than the original price, which was like 10 cents. But by the way, that's my cat in the background you can hear. But yeah, as you can see, you've probably seen that cover before. If you ever find the first edition, it's worth a whole lot, which I think you'd have to have like at least $1 million to buy the first Action Comics at this point. So Superman's story is a little bit different in Action Comics at the beginning. Now they do flesh it out later in Superman 1 a little bit better. And they flesh out a lot of things a little bit better, which I'll do a review of Superman 1, or just I don't know, I guess you could call this a review of Superman 1 later. But so got the little top tiny squares basically says Krypton was exploding, and he was sent away. Then a couple find him. It doesn't mention anything about the Kents. It just says a couple found a baby on the side of the road and took him to an orphanage. So for first about year and a half until they came out with the Superman, and I'll have to check, the dates may be wrong, but until they came out with Superman 1, it looked like Clark was just sent and grew up in an orphanage. You can see there as a baby, Clark is lifting a chair. Then it goes down to explain his powers. He still had his, so in the beginning he had his strength, like that he could lift a whole lot. Probably not as much now, but like now his powers are way stronger. But he could lift a whole lot. He could leap. He could leap over a 20-story building. That's why, like on the old Superman show, it was leap over tall buildings in a single bound. That's not so much a thing now because he can just fly over them. But yeah, it shows him there leaping over a 20-story building. The faster than a locomotive thing you've always heard. So he's fat. It shows him being faster than the train. And I found this interesting. It says nothing less than a bursting shell could penetrate his skin. That means it would take like a rocket launcher or something around, or like a tank shell or something to pierce Superman's skin in the early days. His powers have evolved a lot. Like at first, his powers came from living on Krypton and like higher gravity, and that's why he could do all these things on Earth. Now it has evolved to Superman's cells are basically solar batteries, and it allows him to do a whole lot more stuff. For instance, when he started out, he didn't have heat vision. He didn't have X-ray vision. He couldn't fly. He didn't have super senses. Like he didn't have the super hearing. Like a lot of what we consider today makes Clark Kent Superman. he just didn't have. He also didn't shoot little tiny Superman out of his fingers. That's actually happened in the Silver Age in the Silver Age. I don't know if they'll ever come out of a book. Well, they are. They're coming out with Superman Family, and I'll get that book, but that's not going to come out until I think April. But that's Silver Age, and that's really crazy stuff happening because of Comic Code Authority. This is before the Comic Code Authority. So it explains that, you know, I think that they got some of the inspiration for some of Clark's powers from like the natural world. So it talks about ants that can lift hundreds of times their weights. That's what the comic book says. I just, and then like grasshoppers that can leap yards compared to their size. So yeah, Superman could jump 20 stories and 1/8 of a mile long. Now, Superman was very progressive. Like even in this first book, for instance, he say like the very first thing that he does in this book, that like the very first thing you read after this page is, and it was the very first way people were introduced to Superman. He saved an innocent person from wrongly going to the electric chair. So he saved a woman from the electric chair. The second thing he did was save a person from domestic violence. So that was the second thing he did. The third thing he did was take was to stop an elected official from taking money from from a corrupt lobbyist. So it kind of is. So anytime you hear people complain about how progressive comics are, yeah, are getting. The thing is, comics have always been progressive. So there's that. But yeah, so those are just some things that go on in this comic book. There's one part, and notice I said he didn't have flying powers yet. Although there is one cool part though, where Superman is on a wire, like an electric wire, and is running across the wire, and he's holding the person on his shoulder, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm going to be electrocuted," and Superman's like, only if I touch the pole and we get the pole and we get grounded." And then Superman jumps over a pole and goes, "Whoops, I almost touched it." So he's kind of, in today's terms, trolling the crook. But there's a couple of scenes like that. There's also a scene that, like, with him and Lois, because Lois is in the first Action comic, and Lois, he's dancing with Lois as Clark because they go out on a date, and Lois gets mad because he's not strong enough. Like he's very as Clark, he tries to stay cowardly to hide his powers, and so like she leaves, and then these gangsters follow her, and Clark saves her, and then like she meets Superman, and then she's like telling Perry, "Yeah, I met Superman," and stuff, cause like before then it was just sort of a rumor going around, but so that's interesting, and it shows why in the early days Lois didn't like Superman in Clark in Action Comics, because to keep his powers hidden, he kind of tried to hide him and look way weaker than he actually was. But anyway, I'm about to hit the 10 minute mark on this video. I'll do Superman 1, and then I'll do some current Supermans like Superman 19 and from October, and some other comic books. But I hope y'all enjoy it. Y'all have a good morning, noon, or night. Bye.